say a warm welcome to every one of you. The few people that we don't sign on the chat room. Today we'll just try to go straight into the program. But as usual, just want to say thanks to Sarah Wula, Serena Taylor, all the way from New York in the United States. Enzo Fufana, how you doing, my brother? Boy Jalo Jamboria, Mr. Mohammed Kamara, Mr. Conte Julius G, or Julius Conte, Mariam George, so far in the chat room. If we can spread this message and invite others for join, because it's quite important that we all get for your reading message this Sunday afternoon. Just to go straight to the point, I'm glad with what they do in the first place, that are able to convey a social message, and this is not the bottom line of my objective. I want to convey a social message. I want to be somebody who stand like a caring person for the people, because whatever way you do this, you stand right in the middle of a split opinion, and some people are not really kind to you, but because you believe in a broader narrative and broader objective, so you continue to carry on with what you they do. Having said this, ladies and gentlemen, there one famous Chinese proverb or Chinese philosophy where they call the yin and the yang. So now that the 91 represent the yin and the yang. That's basically the two approaches or the dualities of life. And if you listen to me, if you follow me other works, it's obvious that you will see that very evident in all that I say and all that I've been doing. So don't forget to spread this video. Obviously, it's the SLPP, ladies and gentlemen, for those of you that are familiar with the political spectre in the country, the SLPP, and what they show to now is something where they call the People's Manifesto, or called the New Direction. Remember, I said this has been a catchphrase in the pursuit of political power, which was largely successful because in the end, the people voted for them. But what is interesting, ladies and gentlemen, we said that we will give them 100 days. The 100 days has come and gone, so we scrutinize the things that we say they will do or what they do. Ladies and gentlemen, I will draw Una to the table of contents. The table of contents of the New Direction or the People's Manifesto of the Sierra Leone People's Party. So you can see it's a beautiful document, well done, in black and white, and just on the face of it, it looks like the intention. I'm not making judgment per se, but the intention must be good. But when you look at, forget about part one, because part one is just the introduction in the table of contents. But when you look at from part 2 all the way to part 5, forgetting about part 6, because part 6 is not the conclusion, you have to ask yourself inside this parliamentary period whether this is going to be possible. And these are the kind of tangible way how I like to look at things, whether this is going to be possible. But of course, it's not going to be possible because we can equally provide the answer for attempts all of this. So we can see, therefore, that the party don't begin the highlight several key policies which will be the flagship program for the duration, hopefully, of this parliament. But even with those, we tend to look at them and scrutinize them and want to ask how possible this is going to be. And for begin with, that are the flagship program and the education program. Okay, how possible is it going to be? How feasible it is as a policy? We don't say the president will appropriate 20% of the national GDP and the rest of it. But how is it going to work? Because you're switching back to the old system, because you say the system is not going to work. So therefore, you're switching back to the system. What was wrong with that system? There were several things wrong with that system. One of them, now, because classrooms, they don't become jam-packed. So what you're saying is, you're going to be building more classrooms over a period of time. But even as you initiate this project, where in a month's time, that is in September, when at the school year, then obviously that flagship program of the SLPP will be coming to play. This is not just one thing what we want to talk about, but there are more important things that we're going to talk about, tonight. If you look at the headline there, not the headline, but part of the discussion for tonight, we talk about the genesis of corruption within the civil service. And the reason why we point to this, now on purpose, we do intentionally, which is if part of the highlights of this government is going to be on corruption, and rightfully so, then we get to look at several factors, and we get to look at the way they want to approach this thing, because they look like it's holistic. We make them really difficult. We make the other party, which is the All People's Congress, they cry foul and witch hunting. And we will try to present a case where you, the audience, will get to decide as to whether this is indeed witch hunting. So, okay, we go to the Sierra Leone Civil Services, okay? We know that we gained independence in 1961. This is just a quick visit to history. We know that we gained independence in 1961. And when we get independence from Britain, we're sure that we had everything intact. But we're not diverting into other areas tonight. We just strictly want to keep on with the civil services, because the civil services is key in this discussion that we are holding tonight. It's key in the discussion, or the discourse, the political discourse, the academic discourse that we are having on the country as a whole, okay? Everything else about the civil service was intact as we know it when we took over from the British colonial government. We know that the civil service was responsible for operations and the management of the entire government of the Republic of Sierra Leone. Back in the 50s and 60s, ladies and gentlemen, with all due respect to some of you in the forum, of course, you were not born, which gives you credit as being the younger side. But in the late 60s, in mid-60s, 60s, I was born, and these were our golden years that we really did enjoy. And this is what I'm talking about, that in the 50s and in the 60s, the civil service was a model for bureaucrats, okay? All the people that we aspire for be a bureaucrat did intend or aspire for go into the civil services. They were hardworking and devoted to duty. So we go back to those of you during that time, or shortly after that time, 50s and 60s, even in the 70s, those of you that came in the early 70s, and the mid-70s, you did see traces of this, that the civil servant was somebody who was devoted to duty and was reliable and was hardworking, ready and very professional for the discharge of a duty that was expected of them, okay? But somehow, somewhere, things begin to go wrong. During this period I just talked about, the civil service, one of the incentives we enjoyed was that of a respectable salary. So some of us whose parents were fortunate to have been civil servants at the time know this very well, that our parents enjoyed a respectable salary. Now, what will we attempt to say respectable or define respectable as? Respectable was not something that will make you rich. Obviously, this was an anachronism of decency, respect, integrity. These were the hallmarks that a civil servant enjoyed then, because the salary provided then was respectable. Respectable in the sense that it could make provision for the family. The family will live decently. Okay? Children will go to school, children will eat, rent will be paid, and other activities will be attended to, all within a respectable salary, devoid of corruption. Okay? Ladies and gentlemen, but as I say, somewhere along the line, the lapses of duty begin to inject itself in, and the allegiance to states and governments became questionable, and the portrayal of the services which were once envied, or most people wanted to go into the civil services because of the respectable nature of the job, became questionable. No longer did people wanted to go in there, or if people wanted to go in there, it was not because of national duty, they called for national duty, but for something else. And what was that something else? It was absolutely corruption. That's what it was. And what really happened during this period, in the latter part of the 1970s, and if we can be specific, in 1978, because of the introduction of the one-party system, political corruption became rife. Civil servants became compromised because no longer was a noble profession, based on merit, but rather allegiance to the government, allegiance to the president of the time, allegiance to the bigwigs, the ministers, and etc. So it became incumbent on the part of civil servants then during the single party system back in the late 1970s, 1978 upwards, that there had to be party carrying members of the ruling party. There was only a single party. This is how the civil servant service became a very well compromised institution. A decent institution at the time became very much compromised. That if you don't carry a party card, it's obvious that you don't want to be part and parcel of the mechanisms of government at the time under a one-party rule. And survival, by every measure of the word, was the order of the day, and even going beyond human instinct, even animal instinct, is one of survival. You stand to fight or you trigger your flight discretion, depending on what the situation is. So the civil servants became coerced, they co-opted them, they became party carrying card members. Just imagine civil servants. That's when it got really what I would describe as desperately wrong. Ladies and gentlemen, the forum is open for discussion. This hopefully is going to be a 1-hour discussion. And just a quick announcement to all of you. We're going to continue this because the material is heavy, probably 2 or 3 times over the week, because we have to deal with it. Because the materials that are coming are thick and fast. The issues that are happening are coming in thick and fast. So we cannot rely on 1 week program only. So probably we will resort to doing 2 times or even 3 times a week. Another quick announcement will be, I've got an interview tonight on Radio Via City. That will be from Freetown, Sierra Leone. You can ask family members, friends, relatives, sympathizers, followers, and those of the rest of us that are listening or going to listen later. At 9 o'clock tonight, I should be live on Radio Via City on frequency modulation, or FM for short, 100.06, 100.06, Radio Via City. Tonight, I will be on an interview. So we're going to try to catch up with this quickly. For those of you who are just joining, I was just talking briefly about the SLPP manifesto, which is termed the new direction, okay? The new direction. Even as I speak, material continue to come in, as I can see somewhere there in the chat room. So I was saying that all the contents with good intent of the party, will they be able, because you can see the question that's been asked, will Maada Bio be a one-term president? The basis of which this question was constructed or is constructed is based on evidence available. One, and most of all, is from the new direction, the People's Manifesto. All of the nice things said in there are not attainable in a single parliament, that is in 5 years. So what we will see them doing is they've resorted to focusing, which is normal, on possibly flagship programs that they can unfold. Education, for example, and agriculture, and a few others. But there are more serious problems to this, ladies and gentlemen. More serious problems to this, okay? The SLPP stands accused over the 100 days plus now counting of serious violence unleashed on the supporters of the former government. That's the All People's Congress. I repeat, the Sierra Leone People's Party, under the leadership of His Excellency, retired Brigadier Julius Maada Bio, stands accused by the former party of Ernest Bai Koroma, the ruling party then, that's the All People's Congress, for short known as the APC, of unleashing violence on its supporters, mainly in the south and southeast of the country, where the APC has got less of a representation, few other people. Ladies and gentlemen, we've been having these arguments on most times on the forums that most of us are on. These discussions are relevant, they are prominent, and it provokes a national sentiment in which some of the arguments are biased, some are on a national platform just looking for answers, whilst others are just simply partisanship. But what I want to disclose to you here tonight is the ruling party. They admitted that there are violence, being offloaded, being done to former members or members of the All People's Congress. They mostly are the ones being targeted. So what they decided to do after a complaint from the former flag bearer of the party, Dr. Wilson Samora Kamara, the Secretary General of the party, Mr. Yansane, and the Deputy Leader, Mr. Minkailu Mansare, and others, they made a representation to the government. They complained, in short, to the government. The government saw through the complaint and accepted that they were going to form a cross-party